The alien vessel descended through the crimson haze of Erythri 7's atmosphere, its sleek obsidian surface shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence. The soldier, Corporal Elias Kane, stood at attention on the desolate plateau, his pulse rifle slung across his chest and his heart pounding like a war drum. He wasn't supposed to be here alone. His unit had been scattered during the ambush 2 days prior, leaving him as the sole survivor. And now, he faced something far more daunting than enemy fire: diplomacy. The ship landed silently, its landing struts sinking slightly into the soft soil. A ramp extended downward, revealing a figure bathed in golden light. She emerged slowly, her every movement deliberate yet graceful. Her skin shimmered like liquid starlight, shifting between shades of silver and violet. Eyes that seemed too large for her face glowed faintly, their irises swirling with galaxies. Her hair floated around her head, defying gravity, strands of it sparking faintly like miniature supernovae. She wore a flowing garment that seemed woven from fragments of nebulae, shifting colors with each step she took toward him. Elias swallowed hard, his training momentarily deserting him. This was no ordinary encounter. He'd heard rumors about the Valens, being said to possess technology beyond human comprehension and lifespans stretching into centuries, but nothing could have prepared him for this moment. She radiated an aura of power and serenity, her presence commanding both awe and unease. "You are Corporal Kane." Her voice echoed in his mind rather than his ears, resonating with a melodic quality that made his thoughts tremble. It wasn't telepathy, not exactly. It felt more intimate, as though she were speaking directly to his soul. "Yes," he managed, his voice steadier than he expected. "I am." She tilted her head slightly, studying him with those vast, luminous eyes. For a moment, Elias felt exposed, as if she could see every secret he'd ever kept, every fear he'd buried deep within himself. Then she smiled, a gesture so disarmingly human it caught him off guard, and the tension eased just enough for him to breathe again. "I am Lisara," she said, taking another step closer. "Princess of the Valen Dominion." Her tone carried authority but also curiosity, as though she were examining some rare artifact unearthed from the sands of time. "You fought valiantly against my people's forces. Few humans possess such courage, or such foolishness." Elias clenched his jaw, unsure how to respond. Was this praise or condemnation? Before he could formulate an answer, she continued, her gaze softening ever so slightly. "But I do not come seeking vengeance," she added, raising one delicate hand. "I come seeking understanding. You are unlike any human I have encountered before, Elias Kane. Tell me, what drives you?" He hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't sound trite or rehearsed. "Survival," he finally replied. "And duty. My comrades." His throat tightened, and he forced himself to continue. "They believed in what we were doing. Protecting our world. Our future. I won't let their sacrifice be meaningless." Lisara regarded him silently for several long moments, her expression unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a sound like wind chimes ringing under twin moons. "Ah, yes. Duty. Such a fragile concept, is it not? Yet it binds you tightly, does it not? Fascinating." Before Elias could ask what she meant, Lisara stepped closer still, until mere inches separated them. Despite her ethereal beauty, there was an undeniable strength in her posture, a regality that demanded respect. He resisted the urge to take a step back, knowing instinctively that retreating would only provoke her disdain. "So tell me, human," she murmured, her voice dropping to a whisper that sent shivers down his spine. "Would you lay down your life for your cause? Or would you trade it for something greater?" Elias blinked, startled by the question. Greater? What could possibly be greater than defending humanity against an alien incursion? But before he could articulate his confusion, Lisara reached out and placed a single finger against his forehead. In that instant, the world dissolved around him. When Elias regained awareness, he found himself standing in a vast chamber filled with towering crystalline structures that pulsed with light. Each crystal emitted a soft hum, creating a symphony of tones that vibrated through his very bones. The air smelled faintly metallic, tinged with an aroma he couldn't quite place, something floral yet electric. Lisara stood beside him, her form shimmering even more brilliantly in this strange environment. "Where?" he began, but she silenced him with a raised hand. "This is my sanctum," she explained, her voice reverberating gently within the confines of the space. "A place where truths are revealed and destinies forged." Elias glanced around, trying to make sense of his surroundings. The crystals seemed alive, their lights flickering in response to unseen stimuli. As he watched, one particularly large spire flared brightly, casting intricate patterns across the floor. He realized with a start that these patterns resembled constellations, ones he didn't recognize. Lisara moved gracefully among the crystals, her movements fluid and purposeful. She paused near one glowing column, resting her palm against its surface. Instantly, images began to materialize in the air before them. Scenes of battle flashed vividly, human soldiers clashing with Valen warriors amidst fiery explosions and collapsing buildings. But there was something different about these visions. They weren't memories of past conflicts but potential futures, each more devastating than the last. "These are the paths your kind chooses," Lisara said softly, her tone heavy with sorrow. "Paths of destruction, driven by fear and mistrust. Do you see now why I sought you out?" Elias stared at the projections, feeling a mixture of anger and despair. "We fight because you invaded us," he shot back, his voice rising despite himself. "Your people came uninvited, attacking without provocation." Lisara turned to face him fully, her expression unreadable. "Is that truly what you believe? That my people are conquerors, bent on domination? If so, then you misunderstand everything." She gestured toward another cluster of crystals, which responded by displaying scenes of Earth's history. Wars waged over land, resources, ideologies. Countless lives lost, civilizations crumbling under the weight of greed and hatred. "We have observed your species for millennia," she continued, her voice tinged with both fascination and sadness. "Your capacity for creation is matched only by your penchant for destruction. We did not invade your world, Elias Kane. We intervened to prevent your extinction." Her words hit him like a physical blow. Extinction? Was she suggesting that humanity was on the brink of self-destruction? He wanted to deny it, to argue that Earth was thriving, progressing. But deep down, he knew better. The wars, the environmental collapse, the growing divide between nations, all signs pointed to a grim fate unless drastic changes occurred. "And what exactly do you propose?" he asked bitterly, struggling to keep his emotions in check. "That we bow to your rule? Abandon our freedom for your protection?" "No," Lisara replied firmly, stepping closer until they were nearly face to face. "I propose alliance. Cooperation. Together, we can forge a new path, not just for your people, but for mine as well. Your resilience, your passion, they inspire me. They remind me of qualities my own kind has forgotten." Elias frowned, skepticism warring with intrigue. "Why me? Why choose a lowly soldier when you could negotiate with leaders, scientists, anyone with actual influence?" For the first time since their meeting, Lisara's composure faltered. A flicker of vulnerability crossed her features, quickly masked by determination. "Because you are extraordinary, Elias Kane. Not because of rank or title, but because of spirit. You embody the essence of humanity, the will to endure, to protect, to hope. And—" she hesitated, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that left him breathless. "Because I believe you are destined for something greater than either of us can yet comprehend." The weight of her declaration settled over him like a mantle. Destiny, fate. Concepts he had dismissed as romantic nonsense now loomed large, pressing against the edges of his consciousness. Could it be true? Could he, a mere corporal, hold the key to bridging two vastly different civilizations? Before he could dwell further on the implications, Lisara clasped his hands in hers. Her touch was cool yet strangely comforting, sending waves of calm washing over him. "Will you stand with me, Elias? Will you help guide us toward a future neither of our peoples could achieve alone?" His mind raced, torn between loyalty to his own kind and the tantalizing promise of unity. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, he found himself nodding slowly, drawn inexorably into the orbit of this enigmatic princess who saw something in him he barely recognized himself. Lisara smiled, her radiant visage lighting up the chamber. "Then it is decided. You shall accompany me back to the Dominion, where you will witness wonders beyond imagining. Together, we shall reshape destiny itself." As they prepared to leave the sanctum, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that his life had irrevocably changed. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen. Elias followed Lisara back to her vessel, his mind a tempest of conflicting emotions. As they ascended into the craft, the reality of his decision began to settle heavily upon him. He was leaving behind everything familiar, his comrades, his planet, his identity as a soldier. Yet, as he gazed at Lisara, her luminous presence filling the cabin with an ethereal glow, he felt an inexplicable pull towards the unknown. The journey ahead promised revelations far exceeding his wildest imaginings. Inside the ship, the walls seemed to pulse with life, shifting hues that mirrored the cosmos outside. Lisara guided him to a central chamber where a holographic map of the galaxy sprawled across the air. Stars twinkled and danced, each representing a system touched by the Valen Dominion. She pointed to a cluster of systems at the edge of known space, their light dimmer, pulsing erratically. "These," she explained, her voice imbued with a gravitas that commanded his full attention, "are the fractured realms. Once vibrant colonies, now teetering on the brink of collapse due to internal strife and external threats." Turning to him, her eyes captured his, holding his gaze with an intensity that made his breath catch. "It is here that our greatest challenge lies. The rebellion against the Dominion is gaining momentum, fueled by misinformation and fear. They see us as oppressors, blind to our efforts to preserve balance." Elias listened intently, piecing together the complexities of the conflict. The Valens, far from being mere invaders, were peacekeepers attempting to maintain harmony among disparate worlds, many of which harbored ancient grievances and ambitions for independence. As Lisara elaborated, detailing the intricacies of interstellar politics and the delicate web of alliances and enmities, Elias began to understand the monumental task before them. The stakes were astronomical. Failure could mean the unraveling of countless civilizations. Amidst the strategic discussions, moments of quiet reflection allowed Elias to observe Lisara more closely. Her dedication to her role was palpable, yet beneath the veneer of authority, he glimpsed vulnerabilities. During one such pause, as they stood overlooking the simulated expanse of stars, she confessed her fears. "To lead is to bear burdens unseen," she whispered, almost to herself. "Each decision carries the weight of worlds. Sometimes, I wonder if I am strong enough." Her admission struck a chord within him. Here was a being of immense power and wisdom, grappling with doubts not unlike his own. In that shared vulnerability, a bond began to form, subtle yet profound. Elias found himself wanting to ease her burdens, to offer support in whatever way he could. Their connection transcended the roles of leader and follower, evolving into something deeper, more personal. Yet, as days turned into weeks aboard the vessel, navigating the treacherous waters of galactic diplomacy, Elias grappled with his own reservations. Trust did not come easily to him, forged in the fires of combat and betrayal. Lisara's assurances of peace and prosperity seemed idealistic against the backdrop of war-torn planets and broken treaties. He questioned whether her vision was attainable or merely a mirage shimmering on the horizon of possibility. Despite these doubts, moments of genuine camaraderie punctuated their journey. They shared stories of their homelands, exchanging tales of childhood adventures and cultural rituals. Through these exchanges, Elias gained insights into the Valen's way of life, appreciating the nuances of their society that transcended the simplistic narratives of conquest and control. Similarly, Lisara marveled at the resilience and adaptability of humans, traits she admired deeply. Their interactions grew increasingly intimate, marked by a mutual respect that bordered on reverence. One evening, as they stood on the observation deck watching a distant nebula unfold its colors, Lisara turned to him, her expression a mixture of hope and apprehension. "So, you are taking me as your life partner?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly, betraying the depth of her feelings. The question hung in the air, laden with implications. Elias was taken aback, not by the proposition itself but by the realization of how much his perception of Lisara, and of himself, had shifted. No longer was she merely an alien princess or a diplomatic counterpart. She was someone who had wormed her way into his heart, challenging his preconceptions and awakening desires he had long suppressed. In that moment, suspended between the vastness of space and the intimacy of their shared gaze, Elias understood that his journey was not just about forging alliances or averting wars. It was about discovering parts of himself he never knew existed, about embracing connections that transcended the boundaries of species and culture. As he looked into Lisara's luminous eyes, he felt a surge of determination, a resolve to navigate the complexities of their intertwined destinies, whatever they might hold. Together, they stood on the precipice of the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them, united by a bond that defied explanation yet felt as inevitable as the stars themselves. As the ship approached the fractured realms, a sudden jolt rocked the vessel, throwing Elias and Lisara off balance. Alarms blared throughout the cabin, their shrill tones slicing through the tension that had begun to settle between them. The holographic star map flickered erratically before stabilizing on a single system bathed in crimson light, a region marked as forbidden even in Valen records. "What is this?" Elias demanded, gripping the edge of a console for support. His voice carried an urgency he couldn't suppress, his soldier's instincts kicking in despite his unfamiliarity with alien technology. Lisara's expression was unreadable, her luminous eyes narrowing as she scanned the data streaming across the control panels. "This should not be possible," she murmured, her tone laced with both awe and unease. "The coordinates, they've changed. We're being pulled into uncharted space." Before either of them could react further, the ship lurched again, this time accompanied by a deafening crackle of energy that seemed to emanate from every surface. The walls shimmered unnaturally, distorting like liquid glass, and Elias felt an inexplicable pressure pressing against his chest, as though gravity itself were warping around them. A sense of disorientation washed over him. Time slowed, then sped up, images flashing before his eyes faster than he could process. When the turbulence subsided, the ship found itself adrift in a void unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Instead of stars or nebulae, there was only an endless expanse of swirling blackness dotted with faint, pulsating lights that resembled fractured mirrors. It wasn't empty, it felt alive, humming with an intelligence that prickled at the edges of his consciousness. "Where are we?" Elias asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He glanced at Lisara, but her usual composure had cracked. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted controls, her glowing form dimmed by what looked like genuine fear. "I don't know," she admitted, her melodic voice tinged with uncertainty. "This place, it exists outside known dimensions. Even our most advanced systems cannot interpret its structure." She paused, her gaze darting toward one of the view screens where something massive began to materialize, a colossal shape emerging from the darkness. Elias squinted, trying to make out details. At first glance, it appeared to be some sort of construct, larger than any station or ship he'd ever encountered. Its architecture defied logic, jagged spires intertwined with smooth curves, surfaces shifting between metallic sheen and translucent crystal. As it drew closer, symbols etched into its hull began to glow, an intricate script that pulsed in sync with the rhythm of his heartbeat. "It's calling us," Lisara whispered, her words sending a chill down his spine. "Not just me, you too." Elias frowned, confusion mingling with rising dread. "Calling us? How?" She didn't answer immediately, instead placing her hand on a panel that flared brightly under her touch. Instantly, the air around them vibrated, and a deep, resonant hum filled the chamber. It wasn't sound, not exactly, but something deeper, more primal. It resonated within Elias' very bones, evoking emotions he couldn't name. Longing, despair, hope, all tangled together in a cacophony of raw feeling. Then, without warning, a figure stepped, or rather emerged, from the construct. It wasn't humanoid, nor did it resemble anything Elias had ever imagined. Its body seemed composed entirely of shifting light, constantly changing shapes while maintaining a core form that vaguely suggested sentience. Yet what struck Elias most was its presence. It radiated authority, wisdom, and something else he couldn't quite define, inevitability. "You have come," the entity said, its voice reverberating not in his ears but directly within his mind. Unlike Lisara's earlier communication, this was no gentle probing. It was overwhelming, demanding attention. "You seek answers, yet you bring questions you do not understand." Elias instinctively reached for his pulse rifle, but Lisara grabbed his arm, shaking her head urgently. "Do not provoke it," she warned softly, her eyes wide with apprehension. The entity turned its attention to her, its light undulating in patterns that might have been amusement, or disdain. "Princess Lisara," it intoned, pronouncing her name with a weight that made her flinch visibly. "You have strayed far from your intended path. Your actions ripple across futures untold, disrupting balances carefully maintained." Her jaw tightened, defiance flickering in her gaze. "I act to preserve life, not destroy it," she countered, though her voice betrayed uncertainty. "If my choices disrupt your designs, then perhaps those designs are flawed." For a moment, the entity was silent, its luminescent form pulsing brighter and dimmer in rapid succession. When it spoke again, its tone was colder, sharper. "Preservation requires sacrifice. Balance demands consequence. You toy with forces beyond comprehension, child of stars." Elias felt a surge of protectiveness toward Lisara, surprising even himself. Stepping forward, he addressed the entity boldly, ignoring the terror clawing at his insides. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What do you want with us?" The being regarded him for several long seconds, its shifting form coalescing briefly into something resembling a face, a visage neither kind nor cruel, but utterly alien. "I am the Weaver," it replied finally. "Guardian of the threads that bind existence. And you?" It paused, focusing intently on Elias, making him feel exposed, dissected. "You carry a thread unlike any I have encountered. Twisted, frayed, yet unbreakable." A chill ran down Elias' spine. "What does that mean?" Before the Weaver could respond, alarms erupted once more, louder and more frantic than before. On the view screen, new shapes began to emerge from the darkness. Dozens of ships, each bearing the unmistakable insignia of the rebellion against the Valen Dominion. They surrounded the construct, weapons charging ominously. "They followed us," Lisara gasped, her hands flying over the controls. "They must have traced our trajectory." Elias gripped the edge of the console, adrenaline coursing through him. "Can we fight them?" "No," Lisara snapped, frustration edging her voice. "Not here. This realm amplifies their power. It's why they led us here. To trap us." As if on cue, a beam of energy shot past the ship, narrowly missing it but destabilizing the already precarious environment. The construct shuddered violently, chunks of its crystalline structure breaking away and dissolving into nothingness. Within moments, the Weaver's form began to fragment, its light dimming as it retreated back into the depths of the structure. "You must choose," the Weaver's fading voice echoed in their minds. "But beware, the cost will be great." And then it vanished, leaving Elias and Lisara alone amidst chaos. The rebel fleet closed in, their intentions clear: capture or destroy. But as Elias braced himself for battle, a realization struck him, one that turned his blood cold. "Lisara," he said slowly, turning to face her. "That thing, the Weaver, it called me unbreakable. What if it wasn't talking about me personally? What if it meant us together?" Her eyes widened, understanding dawning on her features. Whatever bond had formed between them during their journey, a connection forged through shared vulnerability and mutual respect, wasn't merely emotional. It was something far greater, something tied to the fabric of reality itself. Before either of them could fully grasp the implications, another twist unfolded. One of the rebel ships broke formation, hurtling toward them at breakneck speed. Instead of firing, however, it docked abruptly with their vessel, forcing open an airlock. Figures clad in dark armor poured inside, weapons drawn. Among them was someone Elias recognized instantly, a human man, scarred and battle-hardened, wearing the insignia of Earth's military. Someone who shouldn't have been there. Someone presumed dead. "Commander Drake," Elias breathed, shock rooting him to the spot. His former commanding officer, the man who had led their doomed mission 2 days ago, now stood before him, very much alive, and apparently allied with the enemy. Drake smirked, leveling a weapon at Elias. "Surprised to see me, Kane? Thought you were the last survivor, didn't you?" Behind him, Lisara tensed, her radiant form flickering with suppressed anger. "You dare trespass here," she hissed, addressing both Drake and the invaders. "This is sacred ground." Drake laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Sacred? Don't make me laugh, princess. This whole galaxy is a battlefield, and you're just another casualty waiting to happen." The standoff crackled with tension, the air thick enough to suffocate. Commander Drake's weapon remained trained on Elias, his scarred face a mask of cold determination. Behind him, the rebel forces fanned out, their weapons glowing ominously as they secured the chamber. Lisara stood frozen, her shimmering form flickering like a dying star, caught between defiance and despair. "You don't understand what you're doing," Elias said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. He stepped forward cautiously, positioning himself slightly in front of Lisara. Whether it was instinct or something deeper, a newfound protectiveness, he didn't know. All he knew was that he couldn't let harm come to her. Drake snorted derisively. "Oh, I understand perfectly. You've been fraternizing with the enemy, Kane. Selling us out for some alien princess who thinks she's better than humanity." His gaze shifted to Lisara, hardening into something hateful. "Your kind has meddled in our affairs long enough." Lisara's eyes blazed with indignation, but before she could retort, Elias cut in. "You're wrong about her. About everything. She's not the enemy, she's trying to stop this war, to save lives on both sides." "Save lives?" Drake spat. "By leading you into some cosmic death trap? Look around, Kane. We're stranded in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by rebels who want us dead. And for what? So you can play house with your shiny girlfriend." Elias clenched his fists, anger rising within him. But beneath the fury, doubt gnawed at him. Was Drake right? Had he allowed himself to be blinded by emotions, misled by promises of peace and unity? The Weaver's cryptic warnings echoed in his mind. Balance demands consequence. Before anyone could act, the construct trembled violently again, its structure groaning under unseen strain. Cracks spread across its crystalline surface, spilling beams of light that bathed the chamber in an eerie glow. From the fissures emerged more of the shifting symbols, the same ones that had pulsed in sync with Elias' heartbeat earlier. They now moved erratically, as if reacting to the escalating conflict. "The realm is destabilizing," Lisara whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "If we stay here, none of us will survive." "Then surrender," Drake growled, gesturing toward the rebels. "Hand over the princess, and maybe, just maybe, we'll let you live." Elias turned to face Lisara fully, searching her luminous eyes for answers. She met his gaze, her expression torn between resignation and resolve. In that moment, he felt it again, the undeniable connection between them, stronger than ever. Whatever the Weaver had meant about their intertwined threads, it wasn't just metaphorical. Their bond transcended species, dimensions, even logic itself. If they were going to survive, they would need to trust each other completely. "No deal," Elias said firmly, turning back to Drake. "You want her? You'll have to go through me." A beat of silence followed, broken only by the hum of energy coursing through the chamber. Then Drake laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Fine. Have it your way." He raised his weapon, aiming directly at Elias. Time seemed to slow as the barrel glowed brighter, charging for a lethal shot. But before Drake could fire, Lisara moved with impossible speed, stepping between him and Elias. Her radiant form flared brilliantly, enveloping both of them in a protective barrier of light. The blast struck the barrier, sending shockwaves rippling through the chamber. Rebels shouted orders, weapons firing indiscriminately as the construct began to collapse around them. Chunks of crystal rained down, narrowly missing those caught in the crossfire. Amidst the chaos, Elias grabbed Lisara's hand, pulling her toward the ship's exit ramp. "We need to get out of here," he yelled over the din. "And go where?" she shouted back, her voice strained but resolute. "We're trapped." "Not entirely," came a new voice, one neither human nor Valen. It belonged to the Weaver, whose fragmented form reappeared amidst the destruction. Its light pulsed weakly, yet its presence commanded attention. There is one path left to you. One thread unbroken. How? Elias demanded, desperation edging his tone. Tell us. The weaver extended a tendril of light, touching first Lisara, then Elias. A surge of warmth flooded through them, binding their consciousnesses together in a way that defied explanation. Images flashed before their minds, not just memories, but possibilities. Futures branching out like roots from a tree trunk, each one shaped by their choices. To sever the cycle, the weaver intoned, you must sacrifice certainty, trust in the bond you share, and leap into the unknown. With that, the weaver dissolved entirely, leaving behind a single pulsating orb of light hovering between Elias and Lisara. Instinctively, they reached for it together, their hands meeting around its warm surface. As soon as their fingers touched it, the world around them shattered. When Elias opened his eyes, he found himself standing on a barren planet under twin suns. The sky burned orange and red, casting long shadows across the cracked earth. Beside him stood Lisara, her form dimmer than before, almost fragile-looking. Around them stretched a battlefield, but not one filled with ships or soldiers. Instead, countless figures materialized from the dust, representing every life affected by the war. Humans, Valens, rebels, innocents, all connected by invisible threads that wove through the air like strands of gossamer. What is this place? Elias asked, his voice barely audible over the collective murmurs of the spectral figures. This is the Nexus, Lisara replied softly. The point where all threads converge. Here we can rewrite destiny, but only if we agree. Elias looked at her, understanding dawning. This was their final test, to choose not just for themselves, but for everyone. To embrace uncertainty, to risk everything for the chance at peace. I'm ready, he said, taking her hand once more. Are you? Tears shimmered in her galaxy-like eyes, but she nodded. Together, they stepped forward, allowing the threads to wrap around them, pulling them deeper into the tapestry of existence. As they disappeared into the Nexus, the battlefield faded, replaced by a vision of two civilizations united, not without scars, but with hope. Somewhere, somehow, balance had been restored. And though the cost remained unclear, one truth lingered. Love, no matter how improbable, could reshape even the stars themselves.